In the autumn of 1977, 3 years after my husband Ford Liang and I got married, his young and beautiful sister-in-law, Zia Jiyu, came to our doorstep with her crying child in tow. Feeling sorry for Zia Jiyu, a widow struggling to raise her child, Ford Liang felt duty-bound to give half of his salary to support her. When Zia Jiyu expressed her desire for an easy, well-paying job, Ford Liang, eager to help, gave her my job. Everyone said Ford Liang was a kind-hearted man who loved to help others. Only I smiled without speaking. I knew why Ford Liang helped Zia Jiyu, because the other half on his marriage certificate wasn't me, it was Zia Jiyu, and the child Zia Jiyu brought wasn't Ford Liang's brother's, but Ford Liang and Zia Gu's illegitimate child. In my past life, I worked tirelessly to help Ford Liang take care of Zia Jiyu and that child. It wasn't until Ford Liang died and Zia Jiyu came with their child to inherit the property, driving me out with nothing, that I learned the truth. Such good fortune will never happen again in this lifetime. I will step aside to let Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu reunite as a happy family of three. Later, on the day I received my university admission letter and was preparing to leave, Ford Liang and Zia Gu's scandal was exposed. From death to rebirth came too quickly. I haven't adjusted yet, looking somewhat bewildered at the familiar era's architecture and slogans before me. Didn't I already die? How could I be seeing all these things from the 70s and 80s? Am I dreaming? The factory guard, seeing me standing dumbfounded at the gate, called out to me, "Here to see Engineer Liang again. He's gone to the station to pick someone up. They say it's his brother's widow." His brother's widow, ha. Just excuses made by that shameless couple. In my past life, Ford Liang and I were deeply in love for 50 years, the model couple in everyone's eyes. We weathered 50 years of storms together. And I always believed Ford Liang loved me as deeply as I loved him. But on the day Ford Liang passed away from severe illness, his brother's widow, Zia Jiyu, arrived with their grown child, holding a marriage certificate with Ford Liang. I, who had lived with Ford Liang for 50 years, was reduced to being labeled as a nanny, and the other woman. All of Ford Liang's family assets were taken by his legal wife, Zia Jiyu, and their son, while I faced endless mockery, accusations, and insults. Unable to accept such an outcome, I spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed. I never expected to open my eyes again and find myself back on the day Ford Liang brought Zia Jiyu and her child home. In my past life, after Ford Liang brought Zia Jiyu and her child home, he explained to me that they were the widow and child of his best friend who needed help. I trusted Ford Liang completely and didn't suspect a thing. Ford Liang said Zia Jiyu and her child were new here and needed money to settle in. So he gave them all the hard-earned savings we had put together to buy furniture and set up their home. He even regularly gave them meat coupons, cloth coupons, and grain coupons from home to Zia Jiyu and her child for their use. Neighbors and colleagues around all said Ford Liang was a good man who valued loyalty and righteousness. Kept in the dark, I always believed the same. Thus, I was deceived by that heartless scoundrel Ford Liang. Sending the hard-earned money I had saved to Zia Jiyu and her child for their enjoyment, I even gave up my job, and finally, when the college entrance exams were reinstated, I was preparing to take them for university. Yet, because of Ford Liang's so-called repaying kindness, I wrote Zia Gu's name on my exam paper. Zia Jiyu used my college entrance exam score to attend university and, after graduation, was assigned to a very prestigious state-owned enterprise. As for me, because of Ford Liang's promise to support me, I stayed at home, toiling away at household chores, raising Zia Jiyu and Ford Liang's illegitimate child as a nanny, wasting my entire life. Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu, those despicable people, hid it all too well. They never showed the slightest hint of their deceit. I was such a fool to not have doubted anything at all. If Ford Liang hadn't passed away from a stroke and met the king of hell first, I probably would have gone to my grave without ever knowing the truth was this cruel. The memories are suffocatingly painful. Thinking about what was about to happen next, I turned and quickened my pace, running toward the home I shared with Ford Liang, breathlessly returning to the home I shared with Ford Liang. I rushed into the bedroom and opened the money box. I stuffed all the hard-saved cash, grain coupons, cloth coupons, shoe coupons, and meat coupons into my own pocket in one go. If Ford Liang wants to set up a home for Zia Jiyu and her child, let him borrow the money himself. he shouldn't expect to take advantage of me any further. I took half of the money and meat and grain coupons in my hand and sent them to my parents via the post office. Then I used the remaining fabric coupons to exchange for 4 sets of clothes at the Supply and Marketing Cooperative and traded the shoe coupons for 2 pairs of shoes. Next, I went to a restaurant on the street and exchanged meat and grain coupons for a hearty, pollution-free, and authentic spare ribs feast. After eating and drinking to my heart's content, I leisurely headed home with my purchases in hand. When I was still some distance from home, Ford Liang hurriedly approached from the opposite direction. Seeing me carrying large and small bags, Ford Liang quickened his pace to greet me. "Ria, did you go shopping?" I nodded and showed Ford Liang the clothes and shoes in my hands. I haven't bought new clothes or shoes for 3 years, so I used the fabric and shoe coupons I've been saving to get myself a few new outfits and 2 pairs of shoes. Since marrying Ford Liang, I've always been frugal, prioritizing him and his family, often at the expense of my own needs. Ford Liang's expression darkened as she suddenly used the family's fabric ration coupons to buy clothes and shoes for herself without even a word of notice. I cautiously watched him and asked, "Ford, are you unhappy?" Of course, Ford Liang was unhappy, but now wasn't the time to dwell on it. He forced a stiff smile and awkwardly chuckled. "It's fine, Ria, there's something I need to discuss with you. I also have something to tell you." I spoke up before Ford Liang could. "I've been married to you for 3 years and haven't sent a single penny home. My parents are struggling, they're getting older and need money, so I sent all my saved wages and food ration coupons back to them." "What?" Ford Liang's voice suddenly rose, his expression twisted with fury. "That was the money we'd worked hard to save for 3 years. Ford Liang had a decent salary, and I was frugal. We'd saved over 1,000, and now not a cent remained." The pain in that scoundrel's heart was all too predictable. I looked at Ford Liang with an innocent expression. "Are you angry, Ford? Don't be mad, it's all my fault. I know I was wrong. I won't act on my own again in the future." Ford Liang's expression was grim, but he couldn't say anything, since what's done was done, so he could only force a smile and say, "I'm not angry, but next time, don't make decisions on your own like this. You have to let me know first." I nodded repeatedly, but inside, I was sneering. "There won't be a next time, Ford Liang. This is the last time, from now on. You and that bitch Xia Jiyu just wait and see. The humiliation I suffered in my past life, I will definitely get it back in this lifetime." Thinking to myself, I asked Ford Liang, "By the way, what did you want to tell me?" Ria, it's like this, one of my brothers, that Zhao guy, you know, he passed away 3 years ago, right? He was my closest friend, and before he died, he asked me to take care of his wife and son. So, I nodded understandingly. Helping others is a good thing. I support you. Seeing that I supported him, Ford Liang breathed a sigh of relief, but then my next words immediately darkened his expression. "Part of your monthly salary goes to your parents, part to household expenses, and now you also have to support your brother's widow. Do you think it's enough?" Watching Ford Liang's grim expression, I added another blow. "When we got married, we agreed that my parents are getting older and life isn't easy for them. I have to support them. Plus, my younger brother is still in college, so my salary has to be sent back to my parents and brother. So Ford, from now on, this family will have to rely entirely on you." Ford Liang fell silent. In my past life, I pinched every penny, humbling myself just to save face for him. So he felt perfectly justified in using our money to support his parents, Xia Jiyu, and the child they had together. I wore the same set of clothes for 3 years, patched upon patches. While Xia Jiyu changed outfits season after season without pause, I ate pickled vegetables and dried radish with plain porridge, looking sallow and emaciated, while Xia Jiyu and Ford Liang's child ate refined rice and white flour, growing plump and fair with snacks to nibble on. In my past life, I was foolish, unable to see through human nature or lies, and deserved to be deceived and used. Given a second chance at life, I am no longer that naive Ria Yang. If Ford Liang thinks he can exploit me like a beast of burden, he's daydreaming. After returning home with Ford Liang, I made a token visit to the house next door where he had settled Xia Jiyu and her child. After a brief encounter with them, I excused myself to go grocery shopping and cook, making my escape. I didn't prepare a lavish feast of fish and meat to welcome Xia Jiyu and her child as I did in my previous life. Instead, I cooked a pot of cornmeal porridge, stir-fried some greens, and served pickled radish. After quickly finishing the preparations, I called out loudly for Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu to come eat. Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu entered one after the other, carrying the child. Ford Liang was covered in dust. In my past life, I had tirelessly cleaned the house prepared for Xia Jiyu. He and Xia Jiyu acted like hands-off bosses the whole time, while I was scrubbing and mopping until my back couldn't straighten up from exhaustion. This time, I excused myself by saying I had to cook. Leaving Ford Liang to serve only his wife and son, you can imagine how painful it must have been for Ford Liang, who had never done housework before. When the two of them walked in, they probably expected a delicious meal waiting for them. Instead, they saw the cornmeal porridge and stir-fried greens with dried radish I served, and Xia Gu's face darkened. "Is this all we're having for dinner?" I wore an apologetic expression on my face. "Sorry, I went too late, and this was all that was left. Let's make do with this for today, and tomorrow I'll have Ford buy something better to treat you and your child." Auntie Xia's mouth was notoriously picky in her past life. How could she possibly be willing to eat cornmeal porridge? Without any regard for face, she stormed off in a huff. Ford Liang looked at the dishes on the table and sighed. Using this to entertain guests is really too. I spread my hands, looking innocent. I also wanted to serve better dishes, but we're out of money. Food coupons, and meat coupons. Just now, in front of Comrade GU, I was too embarrassed to say we had no money, so I could only say there was nothing left to buy outside. "How about you go borrow some money to buy more? I can cook again." Ford Liang didn't go to borrow money. These days, money isn't that easy to come by. He had been helping Xia Jiyu clean the house and was exhausted by now. Xia Gu's place isn't fully cleaned yet. Maybe you could." I outright refused. I just twisted my back. It hurts like hell. I can't do any work. Even cooking dinner was a struggle, and I'm thinking of taking tomorrow off work. After my refusal, Ford Liang left with a disappointed look on his face. In my past life, what I feared most was seeing the disappointed look on Ford Liang's face. I loved Ford Liang and always put him first in everything. Ford Liang thought I would, like in my past life, take on all the work to help him and Xia Gu's mother and child. He thought too much. Cornmeal and dried vegetables like radishes. Since Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu wouldn't eat them, I simply packed away, planning to bring them out again tomorrow morning to serve to them, without me tirelessly scrubbing, cleaning, making Xia Gu's bed, and tidying up. Ford Liang would have no choice but to continue doing all the cleaning himself. Ford Liang is an engineer at his workplace, working in an office. After we got married, all the household chores fell on me. Suddenly having to do such heavy manual labor was too much for him to bear. Unlike in my previous life where he would mop and scrub, this time Ford Liang only gave a cursory cleaning to the house where Xia Jiyu and her son lived, then called it done. After finishing up, I tiptoed over to eavesdrop and sure enough, heard Xia Gu's voice grumbling. "Is this it? The room is still so dirty, there's no wardrobe or cabinets, and the bedding is all old. How are Xiao Bao and I supposed to live here?" Ford Liang had no patience, his voice rough and loud. "What's wrong with this? If others can live here, why can't you? It's not that I can't live here, but why is it so different? It clearly wasn't like this before." Xia Gu's words made my heart skip a beat. What did she mean by "it wasn't like this before"? What does before mean in Xia Gu's words? Ford Liang was too exhausted to notice what Xia Jiyu said afterward and snapped back irritably. "What's the difference? You were living just fine over there. I told you not to come, but you insisted. Since you're here, just deal with it." Seeing Ford Liang's bad attitude, Xia Jiyu forced a smile. "I was just worried you'd miss your son. A child can't grow up without a father. Living with his real dad makes him smarter." "Shut up." Ford Liang lowered his voice. "Can you say such things out loud? Do you want to die? There's no one else around, is there?" "I only said it because it's just the two of us. I'll remember not to say it outside." "But Ford, why won't you buy new furniture for me and Xiao Bao?" "I don't matter much, but Xiao Bao is your own flesh and blood. How can you bear to let him suffer with these old things?" Ford Liang remained silent for a moment before replying. "I'm out of money." "How can you be out of money? Didn't you save over 1,000 yuan? Ford Liang looked at Xia Jiyu. "What $1,000-something dollars? How do you know I've saved over $1,000? Xia Jiyu forced a smile. "I guessed, after all. Your salary isn't low, and Ria Yang's income is decent too. You've been married for 3 years. Shouldn't you have saved quite a bit by now?" "Save what?" There are so many expenses at home, my parents, you and the baby, all like vampires constantly demanding money from me. Let me tell you, since you insisted on coming here yourself, don't complain about life being hard. Times are different now. I didn't listen any further and turned to go back home. Walking while pondering the conversation between Zia Jiu and Ford Liang, Zia Jiu said it's different from before. She even knew about the over $1,000 Ford Liang and I had saved. How did she find out? Could it be that Zia Jiu is also reborn? When Ford Liang came back, I was already asleep. He came in, and I kept my eyes closed, pretending to sleep without acknowledging him. Ford Liang hugged me from behind and whispered tenderly, "Ria, let's have a baby." Marrying Ford Liang and bearing his child was something I had dreamed of in my past life. For 50 years of marriage, I never managed to conceive, in those days. A woman who couldn't bear children was destined to be looked down upon. I think the most important reason why I followed Ford Liang so submissively in my past life, obeying his every command, was that I couldn't bear children, and Ford Liang didn't treat me poorly because I couldn't have children. On the surface, Ford Liang treated me decently. When his mother pointed at my nose and scolded me as a hen that couldn't lay eggs, he would stand up for me. So I thought Ford Liang truly cared for me in his heart. So I consider Ford Liang's care for Zia Jiu and her child as a reflection of his kind-hearted nature. When I was being delayed by Ford Liang's mother, I once talked to Ford Liang about separating. Ford Liang said he wouldn't leave me, that he didn't need children, and that having me was enough. I believed Ford Liang's words and was so moved that I vowed to go through fire and water for him without hesitation. But all of this was a lie. Ford Liang had long since secretly married Zia Jiu behind my back and had a child of their own. Remembering the pain and despair I felt when I learned the truth in my past life, I pushed away Ford Liang's wandering hands and said, "I'm not feeling well, let's rest early." I had never refused Ford Liang in such matters before. This was the first time. I could feel Ford Liang's stunned gaze fixed on my back. I wasn't in the mood to care about what Ford Liang was thinking. I pulled the blanket tighter and put a person's width of distance between us, preparing to go back to sleep when suddenly Zia Jiu's scream came from outside. Ford Liang scrambled up and rushed out without even putting on his shoes. Ford Liang didn't return that night, and I didn't bother to check. It was no secret that he was probably tangled up with Zia Jiu in bed. The next morning, I saw Ford Liang sitting in the living room looking very upset. I yawned and asked, "What's for breakfast?" "We still have the cornmeal from last night. Should we just eat that?" Ford Liang suddenly stood up and kicked the chair, making a loud clattering noise. I turned to look at him and asked, "Who pissed you off?" Ford Liang, his face livid, demanded, "Ria Yang, you slept so soundly even though I didn't come back all night. Otherwise, I have to work today. I can't just stay up all night waiting for you. Can I? Do you even have me in your heart at all? What kind of nonsense is this?" In 2 lifetimes, Ford Liang has never asked such a question. Could it be that just because he went to accompany Zia Jiu in the middle of the night last night, I'm supposed to chase after him like I did in my past life? I shot back, "Don't you know whether I have you in my heart or not?" In her past life, Ria Yang's heart was filled with thoughts of Ford Liang, worrying if he was cold, if he was hungry, even pondering for ages the reason behind his frown. The Ria Yang of her past life was foolish and deserved such a heart-wrenching betrayal. But the Ria Yang of this life won't be so naive again. Without any particular emotion, I heated the cornmeal porridge. Seeing my indifferent attitude, Ford Liang slammed the door and left. Since he left, there was no need to heat the porridge anymore. I packed my things and prepared to leave as well. I didn't expect Zia Jiu to come holding her son, carrying steaming buns and soy milk in her hand. Smiling slyly while giving me a sidelong glance, "Sister-in-law, how can you eat this so early in the morning?" Ford really doesn't know how to care for people. He bought buns, fried dough sticks, and soy milk for me and little Bao, yet he lets you eat this pig slop. The provocation in Zia Jiu's eyes was crystal clear. Without wasting a single word, I snatched the buns and soy milk from her hands, opened them, and started eating. While eating, I walked away. Zia Jiu never expected me to pull such a move. Fuming with rage, she chased after me. "Give me back my steamed buns and soy milk. This was bought with my Ford's money. Why should I give it to you? This was specifically bought by Ford for me and Xiaobao. There's none for you." I don't believe that for a second. I'm Ford Liang's wife. If he didn't buy food for me but bought it for you, what kind of nonsense is that? I raised my voice and shouted loudly, on the early morning road. Full of people heading to work, everyone stopped to watch the commotion when they heard me. With a look of grievance, I continued yelling, shouldn't a brother's wife also know her limits? Calling him away late at night and keeping him out all night, then having him buy you steamed buns and soy milk first thing in the morning. I've been married to Ford Liang for 3 years and never enjoyed such treatment. Let's have everyone judge, since Ford Liang paid for these buns and soy milk. Why can you eat them but I, Liang Ting, can't? Zia Gu's face turned red, and she stammered awkwardly. I pressed on, if you wanted buns and Ford Liang bought them for you, then just eat them. Everyone knows our Ford Liang is a kind-hearted man who loves to help others. But you can't flaunt them in front of me and insult me by saying that eating cornmeal is like eating pig slop. Can you? As my loud voice rang out. Murmurs of discussion rose and fell around us. What kind of people are these? Isn't this just pure ingratitude, eating the buns and soy milk bought by someone else's husband, then coming to flaunt it in front of his wife? Is this something a decent person would do? A widow bringing her child to seek refuge with Engineer Liang? What kind of nonsense is this? Who knows? These days, even brothers keep clear accounts with each other. No family is well off enough, let alone taking in outsiders. Exactly, seeking help from others while still bad-mouthing and bullying them. Since when was that ever justified? It's all because Xiao Yang is too nice and kind-hearted. If it were me, if my partner dared to bring home a woman of unknown origin, I'd slap them right out the door. Amid the surrounding chatter, Zia Gu stiffly slammed the door shut with a loud bang. I smirked, grabbed my steamed buns and soy milk, and headed to work while eating. With so many people witnessing my argument with Zia Gu, the gossip-loving aunties gathered around at noon, trying to pry the details out of me. I told them everything exactly as it happened. Ford said she's the wife of his best brother. After the brother died, she was left alone dragging along a child. Pitiful. So she came to seek refuge with him. Comrade Gu, being delicately brought up, couldn't stomach coarse food, so my Ford, out of pity, buys breakfast for her. Oh, and at night. Afraid Comrade Gu might be scared, my Ford even goes to keep her company. My Ford, is just such a big-hearted good man. The gossip-mongers' looks toward me changed, their gazes filled with sympathy and something more, something suggestive. I knew it wouldn't be long before the news of Ford Liang buying breakfast for the widow and her child and keeping the widow company late at night spread through every street and alley. How exciting, after work in the evening, as usual. I first had a hearty meal outside before slowly making my way home. From a distance, I saw Aunt Zia holding a child and looking around. When she noticed I came back empty-handed, her expression turned as unpleasant as if she had eaten something disgusting. Ria Yang has also returned. Hasn't she? My heart skipped a beat, but I feigned confusion on my face. Comrade Gu, what are you talking about? I don't understand. You're still pretending. You must have come back, otherwise. You wouldn't do something like this. Zia Gu glared at me with extreme malice. It wasn't like this in the previous life. You didn't send all the money home to your parents, you didn't serve me such awful food, and you certainly wouldn't say such things in public to ruin mine and Ford's reputation. So, Ria Yang, you've come back just like me. You're trying to take revenge on me and Ford for what happened in the previous life, aren't you? I looked at the furious Zia Gu and continued playing dumb. Comrade Gu, what are you talking about? I don't understand a word of it. What previous life? What revenge? I pointed at Zia Gu's head. Is there something wrong with you here? As my gaze caught sight of Ford Liang returning, I raised my voice. Ford, you're back just in time. Quickly take Comrade Gu to see a doctor. It seems there's something wrong with her brain. She's been saying bizarre things to me. It's really frightening. The conversation between Zia Gu and me was interrupted by Ford Liang's return. I looked at Ford Liang, who also came back empty-handed. Ford, didn't you buy groceries either? Then what are we going to eat tonight? More of last night's cornmeal. Ford Liang's face turned a sickly green, while over there, Zia Gu began to sob softly. Brother Gu, I've caused you trouble. Sister-in-law actually thinks that way about you and me, ruining both our reputations everywhere. I can't go on living. Zia Gu ran off crying while holding the child, and Ford Liang left me behind to chase after her. I didn't have the time to watch the despicable pair's performance, so I went home to wash up and rest. This time, Ford Liang chased after Zia Gu for quite a while and didn't return until 10 o'clock. When he came back and saw me already lying in bed, Ford Liang's expression was somewhat complicated. "Ria, we need to talk." "Talk about what? Did Comrade Jiyu complain about me in front of you?" "Let me tell you, that's not how it was. She came over this morning with steamed buns and soy milk, flaunting them in front of me and saying the cornmeal I was eating was pig slop. I couldn't take it, so I grabbed the buns and soy milk and said some harsh words. I admit I overreacted. But who told her to provoke me like that? You're my husband, aren't you?" Hearing my explanation, Ford Liang's expression softened considerably. "This Xia Jiyu really went too far, Ria. If you're unhappy with Xia Jiyu and her child staying here, I can ask them to leave. In my past life, there was no such conversation. So did Xia Jiyu and Ford Liang say something? I acted foolishly. I have no objections. What objections could I have? Helping others is a joy, isn't it? Isn't that a good thing? It's just that Comrade Jiyu doesn't seem to like me. I can tell she dislikes me. Ford, you mustn't take her word for it and start disliking me too. Right now, I only have you." Seeing me still acting as foolishly as before, Ford Liang felt reassured. He held my hand emotionally. "Ria, how could I ever dislike you? You're my favorite person." About Xia Jiyu, I need to explain clearly. I once received a favor from Xia Gu's husband, so I have to repay it. Helping her and her child is about repaying that debt. Please don't overthink it. Also, Xia Jiyu has been a bit neurotic since her husband's death, and she speaks without thinking. Please don't take her words to heart. This is absolutely disgusting. I pulled my hand away. So she's mentally ill. Got it. I won't stoop to her level anymore. Considering her husband helped you before, you should just take good care of her and the child to repay the favor. Your good brother will surely be grateful from beyond the grave and remember your kindness. Hearing me say this, Ford Liang's expression changed, sleeping with his good brother's wife, making her bear his child, and even registering their marriage. What kind of person could do such things? Ford Liang must be terrified deep down after doing all these vile things, afraid of being haunted by vengeful spirits. He quickly changed the subject with an unnatural expression. "Well, Ria, I don't want to keep supporting them forever either. I want to repay the debt of gratitude I owe them and make a clean break. How do you plan to repay it?" I continued playing dumb. "Xia Jiyu has no job and is under a lot of pressure raising a child. Your current job is quite easy, so why not give your position to Xia Jiyu? That way, I won't owe them anything anymore." I put on a reluctant expression, while Ford Liang stared at me intently. "I see it as clear as day and sigh along. I'll listen to you. Whatever you say goes. But what am I supposed to do about living expenses once I lose my job? I'll take care of you." Ford Liang reaches out to hold my hand again. "Ria, I'll support you for the rest of your life." Ford Liang had said the same words before, in my past life. Hearing this filled me with sweetness and moved me deeply. This time around, it just makes me sick. I pull my hand out of Ford Liang's grasp. "Alright, it's settled then. The job goes to Xia Jiyu, so you can repay the favor you owe her. But let me make this clear, stay away from her from now on. I always get this weird feeling about Comrade Jiyu, like there's something off about her, all mysterious and cryptic." My words made Ford Liang stare at me for a long moment. His gaze was strange, sending a chill down my spine. I figured Xia Jiyu must have said something to Ford Liang. After all, I'm certain that Xia Jiyu, like me, has been reborn. Xia Jiyu knew what would happen next, so she reminded Ford Liang about my changes. Only then did Ford Liang come back to test me. Seeing that I agreed readily without any refusal, Ford Liang was relieved. That night, I lay in bed and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Confirming that Xia Jiyu had also been reborn made me secretly vigilant. Xia Jiyu and Ford Liang are both despicable and shameless scum. I thought I had been reborn with ways to deal with them. Now that Xia Jiyu has also been reborn, she will surely notice my differences. I must not give myself away. I have to be extra careful, so I obediently agreed to Ford Liang's request to hand over the work to Xia Jiyu, partly to put them at ease and partly because I have my own considerations. As I was lost in thought, I heard Ford Liang beside me calling softly, "Ria, Ria." I kept my eyes closed, pretending to be asleep and not moving a muscle. Seeing that I didn't respond, Ford Liang quietly got up and left. I followed suit, getting up and tiptoeing after him. Ford Liang went next door to find Xia Jiyu, and the two of them spoke in hushed tones in the courtyard. I stood on this side, listening intently through the wall. Xia Jiyu asked Ford Liang, "Well, did she agree?" "She did." "How is that possible?" "So she isn't reborn?" "Definitely not. If she were reborn, would she be this obedient and well-behaved? She'd probably hate us to death." "Right, but haven't you noticed the changes in her? She wasn't like this in her previous life." "Enough. I don't want to hear any more of this previous life or this life nonsense. I'm warning you. Behave yourself. This is a critical period for me as I'm being evaluated for a promotion. Don't you dare cause any trouble." Ford Liang's voice was stern. Xia Jiyu replied resentfully, "Got it. I won't bring it up again. By the way, Ford, don't leave tonight. Stay with me and the kids." "No, we'll be caught. Then let's take this chance to be intimate. It's been a while since we've been together. I've missed you so much." What followed was not suitable for children, and I didn't want to disgust myself by tiptoeing back. I felt somewhat relieved. Thank goodness I agreed to hand over the work to Xia Jiyu, or else those two despicable people would have been extremely suspicious of me. Right, the next day, I went to the office to discuss with the supervisor about having Xia Jiyu take over the job. The supervisor didn't object and agreed to let Xia Jiyu start work the following day, and so the matter was settled. In the evening when I returned home, I ran into Xia Jiyu again at the door. She held the child and looked at me with a forced smile. "You're back. Did you talk to the boss about the job?" I smiled cheerfully. "Yes, you can start work tomorrow." "Is that so? Then I really must thank you. By the way, Xiao Bao and I have truly been a bother to you and Brother Liang. Especially Brother Liang. He's been so good to us." He said Xiao Bao and I are too thin and need to nourish our bodies, so he specially bought eggs, ribs, and brown sugar at noon and brought them over. Aunt Xia was probably still suspicious of me, staring at me without blinking. I laughed. "Isn't this a good thing? It's not easy for a widow like you to raise a child alone. If you're short on money, just talk to Ford and let him help you out more." Seeing that I showed no signs of discomfort, Aunt Xia left disappointedly, holding her child. I watched Aunt Xia's retreating figure coldly. Did she really think I gave up my job willingly out of generosity? Wrong. I wasn't being generous. I was preparing for the upcoming college entrance exams. It's October 1977. And I remember that in just a few days, the announcement about the reinstatement of the college entrance exams will be made. I quit my job to focus on preparing for the exams. I want to get into university when the exams are reinstated and leave that awful person, Ford Liang, behind. The next few days passed quietly. Since I didn't have to work, I took the time to go to the bookstore to study and review. 2 weeks went by like this. On my way home from the bookstore, I heard the good news blaring from the loudspeakers on the street. The college entrance exams have been reinstated. Hearing this thrilling news, my heart swelled with excitement. The moment that will determine my fate is finally coming. In my previous life, after Xia Jiyu took over my job, I stayed at home as a housewife, helping Xia Jiyu take care of the children and do household chores while never forgetting to study. I was preparing to give it my all in the college entrance exam to secure a good future, but at the last moment, Ford Liang convinced me to write Xia Gu's name on the exam paper. He said this way he would no longer owe Xia Jiyu anything. For Ford Liang, I agreed to take the exam for someone else, and in the end, Xia Jiyu went to university. Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu indeed cut off all contact and never spoke again. If it weren't for Xia Jiyu returning with their son to fight for the inheritance after Ford Liang's death, I would never have imagined that these two despicable people had been secretly maintaining a second family in another city all along. Ford Liang's so-called business trips were all just excuses to visit Xia Jiyu and their son. Thinking about the college entrance exams, a glimmer of hope sparks in my eyes. This time, I will take control of my own life and never play into someone else's hands again. When I got home, both Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu were there. They must have also heard the news on the radio and were discussing how to use me. When they saw me, Xia Gu's eyes were full of calculation. Sure enough, as soon as I sat down, Ford Liang got straight to the point about the college entrance exam, just like in my past life. Ford Liang told me to write Xia Gu's name on the exam paper. I wore a troubled expression on my face. I have no objection to writing Xia Gu's name, it's just that I'm not sure if I can pass the exam. There's still over a month left. Study hard, and you'll definitely pass. Xia Jiyu, who already knew the outcome, looked at me with sparkling eyes. I'll give it a try, but don't blame me if I don't make it. Of course not, as long as you do your best, there won't be any problems. Zia Gu was as excited as could be. From now on, you don't need to do anything else. Just focus on studying and reviewing. I'll take care of all the housework. Zia Gu was really going all out to get into university. I sneered inwardly, thinking how grateful I should be for her efforts. From that day on, I devoted myself to studying day and night. With no household chores to worry about, Ford Liang and Zia Gu took care of everything at home. Just like that, more than a month quickly passed by. On the morning of December 11th, 1977, I entered the examination hall with hope in my heart. Ford Liang and Zia Gu actually took time off to see me off to the exam. Naturally, I knew what they were hoping for in their hearts. Sitting in the examination hall, I picked up my pen and neatly wrote my name on the test paper, Ria Yang. The exam was easy. And as I walked out of the exam hall, both Ford Liang and Zia Gu came up to me. How did the exam go? Not bad, I replied. Hearing me say this, Zia Gu couldn't hide her excitement. That's great. You'll definitely get in. Let's go celebrate in advance. Ford Liang booked a restaurant, and we all went to enjoy a hearty meal together. The evening was undoubtedly joyful. Whether it was Ford Liang, me, or Zia Gu, we were all genuinely happy, no matter what was on our minds, in that moment. Our happiness came from the heart. In our joy, we even drank to celebrate. I celebrated the fact that my life could finally be free of that scoundrel, Ford Liang. As for what Ford Liang and Zia Gu were celebrating, I have no idea, because I had a few too many drinks the night before. I woke up a bit late the next morning. Lying in bed, I heard the door being kicked with loud bangs, accompanied by angry shouts. Open the door. What time is it? Ria Yang, how can you still be sleeping? Are you dead or what? Hearing the woman's hysterical shouting outside, I was fully awake. Isn't this the voice of Ford Liang's mother? Why is she here? The next second, the scolding grew even louder. Everyone, come and judge for yourselves. What sin have I committed? My good son married a hen that doesn't lay eggs. 3 years and not even a child conceived. I wouldn't say anything if she just couldn't have children. But she's also unfilial. It's been over a month. And she hasn't sent a single penny home. Sleeping in bed in broad daylight, Ford Liang's mother's amplified voice echoed in the courtyard, and I got up to open the door. Ford Liang's mother charged in like a tigress. Ria Yang, why are you still sleeping at home at this hour? Why aren't you at work? I heard you quit your job and are just lazing around at home waiting for my Ford to support you. What right does a barren hen like you have to expect my Ford to take care of you? Ford Liang's mother has disliked me for more than just a day or two. In my past life, because I couldn't bear children, she would yell at me all the time, and calling me a barren hen was the mildest of her insults. When filled with malice, she would hurl all sorts of vile insults and even resort to pinching or twisting my skin. Back then, I believed I was the sinner and didn't dare resist in the slightest. I simply let her torment me. Of course, such things would never happen now. I took a few steps back and waited for Ford Liang's mother to catch her breath from scolding before calmly replying, "It's not that I don't want to go to work, but my job was taken over by someone Ford arranged." "What? Why would Ford have someone replace you? Who took over your job?" "It's Ford's brother's wife. Ford said he owed them a favor, felt sorry for the widow and her child, so he gave my job to her." "What kind of nonsense is this? I never heard Ford owed anyone a favor. Tell me the name of the person who replaced you. I'm going to have a serious talk with her today." My heart leaped with joy, but I kept my expression unchanged, maintaining a meek and submissive demeanor. "Mom, isn't it inappropriate for you to confront them like this? A widow and her child are just trying to get by. Ford has been helping them out of pity. You said you didn't receive the living expenses. It's not that I didn't give them, but because we genuinely have no money, I lost my job. And Ford has to use his salary to support that widow and her child. So, what?" Mrs. Liang, Ford's mother, was no saint. Hearing that her son not only gave my job to that woman but also spent money on her, she was so furious that smoke practically came out of her nostrils. They say raising a son ensures support in old age. I worked my fingers to the bone to put Ford Liang through college, and I've never been treated like this. What right does that woman, Gu, have? I'm going to ask her face to face what gives her the right. I deliberately blocked her way, stopping her from going. While meticulously recounting every detail of how Ford Liang had bought ribs, eggs, and brown sugar for Xia Jiyu and her child, Ford Liang's mother was so furious that smoke seemed to rise from her head, her teeth grinding audibly. "You little bitch, just wait for me. If I don't teach you a lesson, I'm not human." I pretended to block her a few times, then feigned falling to the ground, watching as Ford Liang's mother dashed off like she was riding on wind and fire wheels to find Xia Jiyu. Once Ford Liang's mother was out of sight, I slowly got up and followed to watch the drama unfold. Ford Liang's mother's combat skills were unmatched by ordinary people. I believe what happens next will be quite dramatic, and sure enough, Ford Liang's mother soon stormed into Xia Gu's workplace. Xia Jiyu was called out in complete confusion, and Ford Liang's mother aggressively approached her, demanding, "Are you Xia Jiyu?" Xia Jiyu recognized Ford Liang's mother and nodded respectfully, saying, "Yes, auntie, you're looking for me. Damn your mother, you little bitch, why did you use my son's money? Why did you take over my daughter-in-law's job?" Amidst a stream of curses, Ford Liang's mother lunged at her with hands and feet. Xia Jiyu never dreamed that Ford Liang's mother would resort to violence at the slightest provocation. Her face was slapped repeatedly, and her hair was yanked downward with a fierce grip by Ford Liang's mother. Ford Liang's mother was as fierce as a tigress. Xia Jiyu not only hesitated to fight back out of fear, but even if she wanted to, she was no match for Ford Liang's mother. Soon, Xia Jiyu was beaten by Ford Liang's mother until her nose and mouth bled. Screaming in pain, none of the onlookers stepped forward to intervene. They were all just watching the spectacle. I waited until Xia Jiyu had been beaten enough before limping out to stop it. Ford Liang's mother was also harsh with me. "It's all because of you, this useless hen who can't even lay an egg, failing to keep your own man in check, letting this little hussy take advantage." She spat at Xia Jiyu and said, "Listen here, bitch, whatever you've taken from me, you better spit it out. Every penny Ford spent on you, you're gonna pay it all back to me, and that job too. Hand it over." The crowd buzzed with gossip, everyone whispering about how shameless Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu were for their affair. By the time Ford Liang rushed over after hearing the news, the scandal had already spread far and wide. Seeing the woman he loved beaten black and blue, her face a mess, while surrounded by a crowd pointing and jeering, Ford Liang was so furious he could feel his lungs about to explode. He pushed through the crowd, his face dark with anger, and stormed off, dragging his mother along. The incident became juicy gossip, with everyone adding their own spicy details behind closed doors, whispering about Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu. As rumors spread like wildfire, countless versions of the alleged affair between Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu began circulating. The scandal blew up so big that Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu had to avoid people whenever they went out. Ford Liang's workplace also became aware of this incident, and he was called in by his supervisor for a reprimand. His promotion and professional title evaluation were also put on hold, with the supervisor stating they would observe his future performance. Because of this, Ford Liang remained angry for a long time, while his mother seemed like a completely different person. She even took the initiative to apologize to Xia Jiyu, admitting her mistakes, and voluntarily took on the responsibility of caring for Xiaobao. "I see through it, but don't say it out loud." No need to say it, it must be Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu who told her the truth. Knowing that little treasure is her own biological grandson, Ford Liang's mother changed her attitude. After learning the truth, Ford Liang's mother quickly changed her attitude towards Xia Jiyu and little treasure, cheerfully calling them over for meals every day. All the delicious food and drinks were exclusively enjoyed by little treasure, and she was also very kind to Xia Jiyu. Only toward me was she not as nice. Just like before, she would lose her temper at the drop of a hat, calling me a useless hen that can't lay eggs. She even joined forces with Xia Jiyu to coerce me into divorcing Ford Liang. Of course, I couldn't wait to distance myself from these rotten people. When Ford Liang's mother came to tell me to get lost, I seized the opportunity and agreed. "I've been with Ford Liang for 3 years and have nothing to show for it. Not even a job. You can't treat me like this. A useless hen like you has no right to stay with my son. Hurry up and divorce him to make room. It's my fault for not being able to have children. But where can I go if I divorce alone? I can't even return to my parents' home. People would gossip behind my back. You can't just let me starve to death, can you?" Seeing me speak this way, Ford Liang's mother's eyes darted around. Then how about we give you some money to settle this? Alright, Zia Jiyu thought getting into university was a sure thing for her, knowing about Ford Liang's comfortable life in his previous existence. She was eager to openly be with him right away, so she discussed with Ford Liang's mother about giving me a sum of money to send me packing. The three of us began negotiating privately. Ford Liang's mom and Zia Jiyu raised their offer from 200 to 500, and I finally relented. With the 500 plus the money I had taken earlier, it should be enough to cover my living expenses in college. Taking the 500 from Zia Jiyu and Ford Liang's mother, I quickly packed my things and left. But at the last moment, Ford Liang caught up with me at the station and stopped me. Ford Liang held me with a panicked expression. Ria, where are you going? Where are you going without my permission? I was furious inside. Why doesn't this disgusting scumbag just drop dead? How could he ruin my plans at a time like this? Overwhelmed with anger, I covered my face and sobbed pitifully. I can't have children. I can't bring you the joy of family or continue the Liang family line. I'm a sinner. I don't deserve to stay by your side. Just let me go. Don't talk nonsense. Ria, you're my wife, the one I love most. You have to stay with me for the rest of your life, and no one can ever separate us. That scumbag Ford Liang forcibly dragged me back from the station. When they saw me return, both Ford Liang's mother and Zia Jiyu changed their expressions. I don't know what Ford Liang said to them, but neither dared to come and bother me anymore. Ford Liang's mother also stopped bringing up the issue of me not having children, only demanding that I return the $500 to her. How could I possibly return the money that's already in my hands? I told them the money had been sent to my parents and that I'd right to ask them to return it. First, I made excuses to stall them, leaving Ford Liang's mother and Zia Jiyu with no choice, unable to make decisions for her son and tell me to leave. Ford Liang's mother secretly made life difficult for me. She pointed at my nose and cursed me out, while I endured it all in silence, not daring to utter a word. Ford Liang was furious when he found out and immediately told his mother to get out and go back to the countryside. Ford Liang's mother was also afraid of him and didn't dare to confront her son, so she had to find another way to force me to go to the hospital for a checkup. She kept saying, "What's the point of keeping a chicken that can't lay eggs? Our Liang family doesn't want a chicken that can't lay eggs. You better go to the hospital and get checked out. If it can be fixed, you can stay. If not, get out and stop ruining my son. I'm still waiting to hold more grandsons." I was dragged to the hospital by Ford Liang's mother for the checkup, and the results came back showing that everything was normal with me. The doctor, knowing I hadn't conceived in 3 years, reminded me, "Have your husband come in for a checkup too. Infertility isn't always the woman's issue. Men can have problems as well." Ford Liang's mother, standing nearby, flared up instantly upon hearing the doctor's words. "What nonsense are you spouting? Who says my son can't father children? My son is perfectly capable. He's already..." Catching herself mid-sentence, she abruptly stopped and pointed at me viciously. "It's her who can't conceive. She's just a barren hen." On the way home, Ford Liang's mother kept cursing the doctor, calling him a quack who talked nonsense. She also told me to get lost quickly if I couldn't bear children and not to stand in her son's way. I turned a deaf ear to her, treating it as nonsense. But in my heart, I was pondering one thing. In my previous life, I had gone to the hospital for a checkup for the sake of having children, and the doctor said my body was completely normal, but I just couldn't conceive a child. In my past life, I had suggested that Ford Liang get checked, but he refused. He said having me by his side was enough. That we didn't need children. It's not that I never suspected the reason for our inability to have children might lie with Ford Liang, yet Ford Liang did have a child. He and Zia Jiyu had their own biological child together. Since neither Ford Liang nor I have any issues, where does the real problem lie? Back home. Both Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu had returned from work. Ford Liang's mother proceeded to scold me again right in front of Zia Jiyu. Zia Jiyu couldn't hide the smile on her face as she listened to Ford Liang's mother berate me. Ford Liang frowned and tried to persuade, finally stopping the scolding only after handing Xiaobao over to his mother. Ford Liang's mother took Xiaobao out to play, leaving only me, Ford Liang, and Zia Jiyu in the house. Ford Liang, looking very displeased, shooed Zia Jiyu away. "I need to talk to Ria. You should go back first." Zia Jiyu left unhappily, and Ford Liang came over to hug me. "Ria, you've been wronged. My mom has a sharp tongue but a soft heart. please bear with her. I tugged at the corner of my mouth. I can't have children. This is indeed my fault. Ford Liang, your mother is right. Someone like me will leave the Liang family without an heir. Why don't we just get a divorce? Ford Liang shook his head firmly. Impossible. You're my wife, and I won't divorce you, Rear. No matter what happens, I'll face it with you. You're the only one who can be my wife in this lifetime. As I looked at the resolute Ford Liang, all I felt in my heart was regret. I found it strange. Since Ford Liang had already registered his marriage with Xia Jiyu, why had he kept it completely hidden from me, both in this life and the last? Why doesn't he just kick me out and be with his wife Xia Jiyu openly and legitimately? Why keep Xia Jiyu and his precious son hidden away outside? Does he just want to use me as a nanny and housemaid? This doesn't make any sense either. Later, Ford Liang became very successful, rising all the way to the position of chief engineer. His salary was more than enough to hire not just one nanny, but 3, so why did he keep hiding it from me? He already took my job and gave it to Xia Jiyu. On the surface, I even took the college entrance exam for Xia Jiyu. At this point, I had no remaining value left to exploit. Why was Ford Liang still unwilling to let me go? Does Ford Liang really love me? Isn't this a joke? If he loves me, why did he secretly register his marriage with Xia Jiyu? I couldn't find an answer in my heart. And at that very moment, a heart-wrenching scream came from outside. Someone come quickly, something terrible has happened. Xia Jiyu and Ford Liang's son, Xiaobao, had an accident. He was taken out to play by Ford Liang's mother when he accidentally ran into the middle of the road, just as a car was coming. The driver couldn't brake in time. Xiaobao was hit directly and was rushed to the hospital covered in blood. Upon hearing the news, Xia Gu's legs immediately gave way. And it was Ford Liang who half carried, half supported her to the hospital. I followed along, watching everything with cold eyes. In my previous life, Xiaobao grew up safely without any accidents. Why did something like this happen in this lifetime? To be honest, I didn't feel the slightest bit of sympathy when Xiaobao was hit by a car. After all, in my past life, I genuinely cared for Xiaobao, not knowing at the time that he was the illegitimate child of Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu. While Xia Jiyu took over my job and went to work, I sincerely looked after him. Having no children of my own, I treated him as if he were my own. Later, Xia Jiyu returned to take him away only after graduating from university and finding a job. I can honestly say I've never wronged him in any way. Yet he inherited the viciousness, selfishness, and shamelessness of Xia Jiyu and Ford Liang. I remember all too clearly the contemptuous looks he and Xia Jiyu gave me when they came to drive me out after Ford Liang's death. He mocked me. Stupid woman, you were just a tool to be used. Both my father and mother treated you like a servant, a maid. Now that my father's gone, it's time for you to get out. He violently forced me out of the house, pushing me to the ground. The ferocious sneer on his face is etched clearly in my memory. I am not an evil person. But neither am I someone with boundless kindness. I cannot muster sympathy for something devoid of gratitude and any moral standards, even if it's still a child, for it is destined to grow into a demon. Xiaobao was undergoing emergency treatment at the hospital, with Xia Jiyu weeping nearly to the point of fainting, and Ford Liang's mother also beating her chest in regret over her past actions. Ford Liang's face was dark, his expression grim. Only I was an onlooker, watching the drama unfold without any emotion. Xiaobao's injuries were too severe and required a blood transfusion, but the hospital's blood bank didn't have enough. They needed to procure type B blood. Ford Liang, his mother, and Xia Jiyu were all in a daze and didn't notice, but I heard it all clearly. I know very well that Liang Ting has blood type A, and Xia Jiyu has blood type O. If that's the case, how could Xiaobao possibly have blood type B? I look at Ford Liang, then at Xia Jiyu. Suddenly, I realize that Xiaobao's appearance, whether as a child, a teenager, or a young adult, bears no resemblance to Ford Liang at all. I recalled how my body was perfectly healthy yet I couldn't conceive, and remembered the words the doctor told me during the examination. Not being able to have children isn't necessarily a woman's issue. If the man is infertile, they still can't have children. So is there a possibility that Xiaobao isn't actually Ford Liang's child? Xiaobao was eventually revived at the hospital. Though he was no longer in life-threatening danger, he lost a leg and became disabled. Xia Jiyu was heartbroken, and Ford Liang was also deeply saddened. Of course, the most grief-stricken was Ford Liang's mother. All of this happened because of her negligence in supervision. Ford Liang's mother remained in deep sorrow for a long time, only I couldn't share their joys and sorrows, as my mind was solely preoccupied with the thought of going to college. I anxiously awaited the release of the college entrance exam results in my heart. Finally, the college entrance exam scores were released. On the day the results came out, I went to the admissions office early to inquire about the news. Although I didn't find the exam papers difficult, I couldn't help feeling uneasy in my heart. Not until I checked my score did the heavy stone in my heart finally drop. I can finally get away from that disgusting thing, Ford Liang. I didn't go home until I had filled out the forms and submitted them at the admissions office. Just as I was about to push the door open, I heard Ford Liang's mother's shrill voice from inside. "Since this child is already ruined, you should just have another one," Xia Jiyu said. "I do want a child. But Ford refuses to marry me. I can't just follow Ford around without any status and bear 2 illegitimate children for him. Can I, Ford, why don't you say something? What's so great about that barren hen that you can't let go? In my opinion, just divorce her and kick her out, then marry Xia Jiyu and give me a chubby grandson." Ford Liang remained silent for a long while before finally saying, "Now is not the time to divorce Ria Yang." "Why? Why can't you divorce her?" Ford Liang's mother and Xia Jiyu asked in unison. "I'm currently being evaluated for a promotion and professional title. A divorce at this time would greatly affect my career. Do you really want me to never advance in my life? Is this the reason Ford Liang refused to separate from me in both his past and present lives? For the sake of his job and his future, he wasted my entire life." Upon hearing this, Xia Jiyu cried out, "So you're planning to spend your whole life entangled with her? What about me and Little Bao?" Ford Liang coldly stopped Xia Jiyu. "What are you crying for? Little Bao is now disabled. If you marry me, you'll have to take responsibility for his life. Are you willing to care for a disabled person for the rest of your life?" Ford Liang's voice was icy to the extreme, and his words laid bare the dilemma Xia Jiyu now faced. Xia Jiyu fell silent instantly. To be fair, she certainly didn't want to care for a disabled son, but she also genuinely wanted to marry Ford Liang. "Then what do you suggest we do? Haven't I made it clear? Ria Yang and I will continue living together. Let her take care of Xiaobao for you while you go to college, then we'll find time to have another child." "Exactly, just follow Ford's plan. That barren woman will be guilt-ridden and will surely obey Ford's every word, taking good care of Xiaobao. Meanwhile, you two should hurry up and have a healthy child. No time like the present. Let's make it happen in the coming days." Ford Liang's mother clapped her hands in approval, eagerly pushing for Ford Liang and Xia Jiyu to conceive a child as soon as possible. I turned around and left. How can someone be so despicable? They want me to take care of their disabled child, Xiaobao, wasting my entire life for them, while they secretly have another healthy child and continue their happy life. I have to say, Ford Liang and Xia Gu's idea was absolutely brilliant. Ford Liang, not everything will go according to your plans. If you want to trap me for life, you'll have to see if I agree to it. I took a leisurely stroll outside before slowly making my way back home. The 3 of them, having settled their discussion, chatted casually in the living room as if nothing had happened. Seeing me return, Ford Liang's mother, unusually, took the initiative to speak to me. "Where have you been?" "Just went out for a walk. I heard the college entrance exam scores came out today. Did you check yours?" Xia Jiyu remembered the exam and asked me. I said lightly, "There should still be about 2 days left." "Right, really, don't forget to let me know when the time comes." "Don't worry, I won't forget about you. It's just," I paused before asking Xia Jiyu, "with your son like this, are you at ease going to university? Who do you plan to leave your son with, given his condition? No one would be willing to take care of him for you." "Right, so are you planning to send him to an orphanage?" My series of questions left both Xia Jiyu and Ford Liang looking very uncomfortable. The 2 despicable people stammered, "Let's talk about Xiaobao later. We'll decide after seeing the college entrance exam scores." I tactfully reminded them, "You should also consider the child's situation. As a mother, you must think about Xiaobao's future, especially in his current condition." I knew Xia Jiyu took it to heart, not to mention Xiaobao had already become disabled in her previous life. She wasn't willing to be a responsible mother to Xiaobao when he was perfectly healthy, let alone to a disabled child. She probably couldn't resist hooking up with Ford Liang to prepare for what's coming next. At night, I went to bed early as usual, and Ford Liang came in to check on me several times. He left after making sure I was asleep. Opening my eyes, I listened to the sound of Ford Liang's departing footsteps and sneered. About a quarter of an hour later, I quietly got up and slipped out. The neighboring courtyard was lit, its gate slightly ajar. I tiptoed in, pushed open the door, and approached the window, only to hear unspeakable sounds coming from inside. With a cold smile on my face, I turned and walked to the door, grabbed a few handfuls of firewood, and lit them with a match. Soon, thick smoke billowed outside, and I raised my voice to shout, "Fire! Come quickly, help put it out." In the dead of night, my sharp, piercing voice carried far and wide. Soon, neighbors from all around rushed out with buckets of water, charging into the yard where Zia Jiyu lived. The flames were fierce, licking up to the windows, and someone kicked the door open. Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu, both undressed, were spectacularly exposed to the crowd's gaze. I stood among the crowd, watching the panic-stricken faces of Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu. The two were barely clothed, looking utterly disheveled. The fire was extinguished, but not a single onlooker had left. I pushed through the crowd and rushed forward, slapping Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu left and right. "Adulterers, how long have you been together behind my back? Why are you treating me like this?" Ford Liang's face was red and swollen from my slaps, his expression full of shock. He actually tried to explain to me, "Ria, it's not what you think, really not what you think. They were rolling around naked together. What else could it mean? Ford Liang, you bastard. You've gone too far." All the hatred from 2 lifetimes erupted in that moment, and I lashed out at Ford Liang, hitting, scratching, and biting him. Ford Liang ended up with a swollen, bloody face from my beating, and Zia Jiyu, heartbroken, actually tried to step in and stop me. There was no way I'd let Zia Jiyu off the hook. I grabbed her by the hair and threw her to the ground. Zia Jiyu was beaten by me until there wasn't a single good spot left on her body. She glared at me with venomous hatred. "You set us up, Ria Yang, you bitch." The impact of this incident was enormous. In this era, promiscuous relationships between men and women could land you in jail. The affair between Ford Liang and Zia Jiyu couldn't be suppressed. The very next day, Ford Liang was notified by his workplace to suspend his duties for self-reflection. What awaited him was an uncertain future. Zia Jiyu, who took over my job, hadn't even passed her probation period yet. After such a shameless incident, she was promptly fired by the company without any objections. Gossip about Zia Jiyu and Ford Liang was spreading everywhere outside. Everyone was vividly describing how they hooked up behind my back, with some even claiming they took advantage of my sleep to fool around together every night. The reputations of Zia Jiyu and Ford Liang were thoroughly ruined. Ford Liang's mother was furious. While Ford Liang was fooling around with Zia Jiyu, she was in the hospital taking care of their injured and disabled child, Xiaobao, so she had no idea what was happening. When she found out her son and Zia Jiyu had been ruined by me, she actually tried to take it out on me. She still thought of me as that meek and submissive Ria Yang, even pointing at my nose angrily and cursing me. "It's all because of you, you jinx. Because of you, Ford lost his job. What do you think you'll eat and drink in the future?" I didn't indulge her. When she pointed at my nose and cursed me, I immediately slapped her across the face. Ford Liang's mother was stunned by the slap, her hand trembling as she pointed at me. You hit me, you ungrateful wretch. I'm going to sue you." "Go ahead and sue. I'll be waiting." I glared at her coldly. "At this point, there's no need to pretend anymore. You've known all along about your son's disgusting deeds, haven't you? You knew he had an affair with Zia Jiyu and even fathered a child, yet you still tried to use me, to make me slave away for your family. Your whole family is worse than pigs and dogs, you rebellious wretch. You hit me. I'm going straight to the police station to report you for assaulting an elder." I crossed my arms and sneered. "Go ahead and report me. Let me remind you, did your son fail to mention that we're not legally married in the eyes of the law?" Ford Liang's mother was stunned. "What do you mean? Your son and Zia Jiyu are the legally married couple. Your son deceived me. We never even registered our marriage." Ford Liang's mother's eyes lit up when she heard me say this. "So, my son and Zia Jiyu are the real married couple. It's not illegal for them to be together, then his job is safe." She was overjoyed, thinking she had found a lifeline, but I sneered coldly behind her. Ford Liang's mother didn't believe my words and went to ask Ford Liang again, only to confirm that Ford Liang and I were indeed not legally married. Ecstatic, She urged Ford Liang to clarify the situation, hoping to save his job. Ford Liang also held on to hope, trying to get me to step forward and help him clear his name. He knelt before me, tearfully admitting his mistakes and apologizing. "Ria, the one I've always loved is you, Zia Gu and I. It was all her scheme to trap me. I was drunk when she seduced me, and she's been blackmailing me with it ever since. I was afraid you'd leave me if you found out, so I didn't dare speak up. I'm a victim too. I was forced into marrying her." Watching Ford Liang's tearful breakdown, I couldn't help but laugh. At this point, "Ford Liang, do you really think I would believe your words? Let me tell you the truth. I've already been driven to death once by you, Zia Gu, and your son. Do you think I, who have lived again, would be foolish enough to believe your excuses?" Ford Liang turned pale. "You really are reborn. Just like Zia Gu, you've been reborn." I nodded. "Yes, exactly." Seeing me admit to being reborn, Ford Liang was stunned. Impossible. How could this be? He was still trying to explain and shirk responsibility. "Ria, I had no choice. I love you. I never intended to marry Zia Gu. She forced me to secretly replace your name with hers on the marriage certificate, threatening to report me for rape if I didn't. I had no other option. Please forgive me. I had no idea Zia Gu would go so far as to harm you like this after my death. I truly didn't know. Ria, I was wrong. Forgiveness is out of the question. Ford Liang, you and Zia Gu are birds of a feather, perfectly matched as husband and wife." Seeing that I refused to forgive him, Ford Liang also turned vicious. "Ria, a woman like you who can't bear children, what can you possibly do without me? Let me tell you, it's only because I love you that I tolerate your infertility. Any other woman would have been beaten to death and abandoned by now. So what, am I supposed to thank you for wasting my life like this? I just want you to understand how much I love you, Ria, for the sake of our time as husband and wife. Please help me. Go explain to my superiors that we were never truly married. That my relationship with Zia Gu wasn't an affair. She and I are the real couple. That way, I won't lose my job. As long as I can keep working, I'll support you. I promise to take care of you for the rest of your life. Why would I need you to support me? I have hands and feet. Can't I rely on myself? Why should I depend on a liar like you, who spews nothing but deceit? But you can't bear children. A woman who can't bear children is destined to be despised. You don't need to worry about me, Ford Liang. Let me share some great news. I'm going to college." "What? You're going to college? Didn't you take the exam for Zia Gu? Could it be? You've been deceiving me all along." "Exactly. I made the same foolish mistake once in my past life. Why would I repeat it? The moment I found out about your collusion with Zia Gu, I made my decision. Ford Liang, I hope you and Zia Gu live happily with your disabled son. Before I leave, I'll send you a grand gift. I hope you like it." After being mercilessly rejected by me, Ford Liang screamed curses at me with all his might behind my back, using language as filthy as his mother's. Unimaginably so, I packed my things and prepared to leave. As I was leaving, Zia Gu stopped me. "Ria Yang, how dare you scheme against me, you bitch." My response was two sharp slaps, and Zia Gu was knocked to the ground by me. I stepped on her chest, leaned down, and enunciated each word clearly. "You'd better not provoke me, or your secret won't stay hidden for long." Zia Gu covered her face in disbelief and stared at me. "You, what do you mean?" "What do I mean? Don't you know in your heart how your little treasure came to be? Who knows better than you? Passing off another man's child as Ford Liang's son, you've played this game flawlessly for 2 lifetimes, never worrying about being exposed." A look of panic flashed across Zia Gu's face, and her bravado vanished instantly. I wasn't entirely sure that Ford Liang couldn't have children. I just wanted to bluff Zia Gu. I never expected Zia Gu to crumble so completely. Her inability to fight back and her panic said it all. "This is just too much fun." I kicked Zia Gu aside and turned to leave, but she chased after me. "Are you going to tell Ford Liang?" "Ria Yang, I'm warning you. If you dare to snitch, I won't let you off." Even now, she still dares to bluff and threaten me. Truly, a leopard can't change its spots. I originally wanted her and Ford Liang to be stuck together for life, but Zia Gu's threats made me change my mind, with 2 lifetimes worth of hatred. Why on earth should I let her go? Even a clay figurine has some temper. I'll make Zia Gu understand the consequences of arrogance. Ford Liang's mother and Ford Liang himself struggled desperately, hoping to save his job. but I beat them to it by sending a report to the disciplinary committee. The letter detailed Ford Liang's moral corruption and his deceitful exploitation of women. The disciplinary committee took it seriously and dispatched investigators. The ironclad evidence was laid bare before them. There was no way for Ford Liang to keep his position. He was spectacularly fired. A week later, my admission letter arrived, and I boarded the train to the capital with it in hand. Before leaving, I gave Ford Liang a long overdue parting gift. I told Ford Liang that he was infertile and that his so-called biological son, Xiaobao, was actually the illegitimate child of Xia Jiyu and another man. What Ford Liang would do is none of my concern. From what I know of this despicable and shameless man, I imagine Xia Jiyu and her son Xiaobao probably met a grim fate. Sure enough, not long after I reported to the capital, I heard a fellow townsman vividly recount a horrifying dismemberment case. The male lead's name was Ford Liang, the female lead was Xia Jiyu, and there was also a disabled son, Xiaobao, as a supporting character. Ford Liang was sentenced to death with immediate execution for intentional homicide. Upon hearing this news, I smiled faintly.